Central UK. I'm Tish, and if you enjoy this video then don't forget to subscribe and give it a like. Now behind me is Volkswagen's newest SUV to their range, the T-Cross. I hadn't actually anticipated doing this video, but yesterday I took my up to be serviced at Barnards Volkswagen, which is where I used to work, and this little beauty caught my eye. So where does the T-Cross sit in Volkswagen's SUV range? Well, it's a very good question. Volkswagen have 5 larger SUVs. So the biggest, you've got the Touareg, and then you've got the Tiguan Allspace, which is a 7-seater, and then you have the standard Tiguan. And then you've got the T-roc. So the T-roc was the most recent SUV that Volkswagen brought out, and that one is about equivalent to a Golf size. And then you have the T-Cross. So the T-Cross is your Polo equivalent of the SUV. It's on a Polo chassis, and it shares a lot of similarities in terms of the specification that you get. All matches up with the Polo. Talking of specification, what level of spec do you get with the T-Cross? Well, there's 4 model variants. You've got the S, the SE, the SEL, and the top of the range R-Line. Starting off with the S, you don't tend to see many of these in Volkswagen stores. The main reason being is for the level of equipment that you get for upgrading to the SE, it's definitely worth the extra money. In the S, you don't get things like Apple CarPlay. Go up to the SE and then you get Apple CarPlay. You also get 17-inch alloy wheels, colour-coded bumpers, and loads of safety spec as well. Upgrade to the SEL, which is the one that we're looking at today, you get LED headlamps, and you also get adaptive climate control. The one that we're looking at today has also been upgraded to 18-inch alloy wheels. For the first time in a little while, Volkswagen have given the T-Cross a different look. So it has this light bar that runs along the exterior of the car. Is this a look into the future of Volkswagens? They've also changed one quirky feature, and I'm not sure if I like it or not. So, in many Volkswagens, you open the boot by twisting the badge, but in this case, it's now underneath, like in many other cars. I'm not really sure how I feel about this. It was something that made Volkswagens a little bit different. But the boot is where the T-Cross is the top of its class, and I'll show you why. At first glance, for a family SUV, the T-Cross hasn't got a boot worth boasting about. But there are a few quirks which give you some extra space. To start with, there is a variable boot level. So if we drop that down, that instantly gives you a few extra inches of space. And secondly, as you can see, I've pulled the rear seats forward, and that's given me another few inches in the boot. This all in all, with the floor level and the seats forward, gives you one of the biggest boots compared to all of its competitors, and it actually gives you more space than you get in its older brother, the T-roc. But as you can see, there is one problem. And that's the gaping hole that it leaves. I don't understand why Volkswagen haven't done something where this gets covered up. Now I'm sure it's fine if you're sensible with how that you pack the car not to lose things, but I can imagine small items would get lost. And what does that do to the space in the rear? I've still got the seats pulled back as far as they will go, and as you can see, with somebody my size driving, there's loads of legroom. I'd quite comfortably fit in this car. However, my passenger seat is pulled a little bit further back, perhaps to fit a 6-foot male. And behind, the seat is absolutely dead against it. You wouldn't get an adult sitting there at all. You'd fit a child or a child with a car seat, but you wouldn't get a tall person in the front and a tall person in the back. Is that going to be a problem? I suppose it completely depends what you're using this car for. How often do you have full-grown adults in the rear? I'm also going to show you how easy it is to adjust these rear seats. So there's a bar under the middle seat, and you literally just slide it back. Really, really easy. And as you can now see, I've got absolutely tons of leg room, and thanks to its boxy shape, I've got tons of headroom as well. So this is really spacious in the back. Could you get 3 adults in here? Probably not. But again, how often does that happen? There's also one quirk that I really like about the T-Cross as well, and I'll show you. So one problem with keep sliding the seats forward and back, as you can see, is that you might end up losing a seat belt. However, if you look on this side, Volkswagen have thought about this and they've added a seatbelt clip to make sure that it doesn't get caught. There's also loads of ISOFIX fitments as well. Volkswagen have also put 2 USB ports in the rear as well. So if you've got children that regularly use their iPads, this is brilliant for keeping them entertained on long journeys. The rear of the car is not the only place that Volkswagen have made some changes. There is a few visual changes on the inside of the cabin as well. Everything has been made more angular, from the dials to the multifunctional steering wheel to the shape of the gear lever. They've also made the climate control dials digital. For a comparison, I'll add a shot of the interior of the T-roc so that you can see the difference. The 8-inch colour touchscreen has been kept exactly the same in both cars, and it is clear and simple to use. You may have also noticed that the T-Cross gets an old school manual handbrake, unlike the automatic one in the rest of the range. This is definitely appealing to a younger audience with its funky geometric dash. This one in particular is actually quite subtle, and it does also come in an option of teal or energetic orange. Digital dials are an optional extra for around £300. One small thing that I dislike about this car is the placement of the fuel gauge. As you can see, that little arrow is actually pointing to what side your fuel cap is on. But when you first get in the car, it looks almost as if it's pointing to where the fuel is, making you think that you have a lot less than you actually have. I feel so at home behind the wheel of the T-Cross. I absolutely love it. I've had T-Rocs and I've also had Polos as my demonstrators for a little while, and this car drives very similar to those. It's really smooth, but there's plenty of power when you need it. So the T-Cross comes in 2 1-litre petrol engines. Now they do say that they are bringing out a 1.5 as well later on in the year, but I can't guarantee that. There's 2 different power outputs. There's a 95 brake horsepower, and then there's this one that I'm driving today, which is 115 brake horsepower. Before I worked in sales, if you said to me, if I went in to buy a car and the salesman said that's a 1-litre engine, there is no way I would have been interested. They could have given me all the talk in the world, but at the end of the day, I would have just thought, no, I've driven 2 litres, I've drove 1.4 engines. I wouldn't want a 1 litre, it wouldn't be enough for me. But since I've actually driven them as my company cars, I have to say the 1 litre 115 brake horsepower is a fantastic engine. You get really good fuel economy, so you're sitting in around the 40s, but you also get loads of power with it as well. I mean, I'm not talking a ridiculous amount of power, but then this doesn't boast to be a performance car. This is supposed to be a family run around car, and for what it is, the engine is so good. You definitely don't feel like it wouldn't get you out of trouble. There's plenty of pull, but then there's also enough comfort as well. Every time Volkswagen bring out a new car, they seem to make it a little bit safer, and in my eyes that can never be a bad thing, and the T-Cross is no exception. So as standard, this car comes with adaptive cruise control, so when you're on the motorway it will vary your speed depending on the car in front without having to manually brake. On top of that, it also comes with the emergency city braking. So in a family car, I think that's brilliant. If you're a little bit distracted, you've got the kids in the back, or there's a lot of people in the car, and somebody slams their brakes on in front and you haven't had time to catch that, the car will emergency brake for you. On top of that, it also has lane assist, so it will keep you within the lanes on the motorway, and it also has, which is new to the T-Cross, blind spot detection, and all of this is standard on the SE and up. If you go for the 115 brake horsepower engine, then you get a 6-speed manual gearbox. If you go for the 95, then you just get a 5-speed manual gearbox. I definitely think it's worth upgrading to the slightly more powerful engine, even if it's just to get that 6th gear. On motorways, you definitely feel like you need it. You also get an automatic 7-speed DSG option, which is a great little gearbox. My only problem with that gearbox is, with the start-stop, it can be a little bit delayed to start up, and it does slightly hold onto the gears a little bit longer than you'd want it to. If you want to get a sat-nav on this car, you do have to go for the SEL version, or you can add it on as an optional extra. However, everything from the SE upwards does get Apple CarPlay as standard, and I think in this day and age your phone tends to be the most up-to-date sat-nav you can get anyway, and for terms of keeping a car long term, I don't think you'd need a sat-nav. So one thing I think Volkswagen have been a bit stingy with is the parking sensors. Now, if you want parking sensors as standard on the T-Cross, then you do have to opt for the SEL option, which, if you go for the T-roc, they come as standard with the SE. Although I know this is supposed to be a little bit cheaper, a little bit smaller, but in a car like this, you do really want parking sensors. That'd be emergency city braking. And I joked when I said that I was going to try it out, but yeah, so that was my emergency city braking kicking in. The car thought I was going to hit the post behind, and it did stop automatically for me. Shh, don't tell Richard. I want you guys to get involved. What do you think of the Volkswagen T-Cross? Is this a car that you'd buy? If not, then who do you think the target audience is? And lastly, has the world gone SUV mad? Now, if this is a car that you're interested in purchasing, what I'll do is I'll pop the details of Barnards Volkswagen below, and they'll be happy to run you through all the details of the cost and the monthly payments and all different finance packages and things like that. Thank you so much for watching today. If you've liked this, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe to Auto Social for more videos and reviews. Thanks, bye.